Good afternoon. Welcome to today's safeguarding briefing. Lovely to have you here with us if you are here live. We are going to get going in just a moment. Give people another 2 or 3 seconds to come and join us live if they wish to do so, although I appreciate this April briefing is going out right in the middle of the school holidays. Okay, let us begin today's safeguarding briefing. Welcome to you if you're joining us live, and welcome if you're watching the replay. Here, I'm just going to move over there. There we go. If you don't know me, welcome along. And if you don't know the Safeguarding Association, then we're specialists in supporting safeguarding professionals who are working with 16 to 24-year-olds. Brilliant age range to work with, but can be very, very challenging with the relevant bits of legislation that crosses over. Who am I? Well, I'm your host. I'm Kate. I have 25 years legal experience under my belt. I'm a practicing solicitor. I work in the realms of child and adult protection. I'm also the founder of the Safeguarding Association. I'm a safeguarding trustee and I'm an independent safeguarding chair. So lots of safeguarding happening in my world. If you are here live and you want to participate or you have some questions as we move through, then please use the Q&A function. The chat function tends not to work on these. And you might want to move yourself somewhere quiet or pop some headphones in if you're not working in the office and you're working from home today. The way these work is we split them into 3 sections. We will look at some updating reports, we'll have a look at some updating guidance, and then we'll have a look at any legislation or legal things that have changed or are changing as well. So what has been going on? Before we dive into reports and we dive into guidance and legislation, there's one that I really want to flag, which is the mandatory reporting of child sexual abuse. That was announced by the Home Office in February to be coming on board, and there will be changes made to the Criminal Justice Bill. As yet, I haven't seen those changes. There is a Home Office briefing available if you want to have a look at that. Fairly easy to find with a search engine search. The wording is likely to follow that which is set out in the independent review into child sexual abuse. But until it's here, until it's been written down, until the government has said this is what we're going to do, then it's pure conjecture. And once we know what that looks like, then I will share it with you. But at the moment, it's just something to bear in mind that it is there, it is floating around the ether. We are waiting to find out what that is actually going to look like, and in particular whether or not it's going to follow what the female genital mutilation mandatory reporting duty looks like, or whether it's going to be slightly different. I think it's going to be slightly different, but it's a watch this space and just keep it on your radar because it is coming. So let's pop that to one side because that's what's coming up. It's been about, it's still not here, but we need to be aware of it. What has been going on? Well, we've had a very big report. Well, the Office for National Statistics has published a report with a very, very long-winded title. I just realised I've put that twice there. But some of the key findings are probably not going to be a huge surprise to you if you're working with this age range, and in particular in light of lots of the conversations that are happening at the moment around the impact of the use of apps, the use of phones, the use of devices on our young people, and the ongoing conversation that's really starting around whether or not there should be stricter age limits on the use of phones, things like that. But what this report has found is that 19% of children online have been victims of bullying. 19% have messaged someone they don't know online. 92.6% of children are online daily or almost daily, and 58.1% have spent 3 hours or more online daily. And this was taken on a kind of average school day. So this isn't a case of this is what they're doing at the weekends. This is what's happening on a day-to-day basis for our young people. Couple that with the NSPCC research around the use of apps, and by far the most prevalent app with this age range is Snapchat. And the NSPCC is urging the powers that be, so Ofcom, to use the powers it has been given within the Online Safety Act, remember that came in last year, to really start to work with and put sanctions in place for these big service providers to tackle bullying, online abuse, all of those things that are happening that we know are occurring. So this has come from the Office of National Statistics. I'm fairly certain that any one of you can look at your own safeguarding data and see how bullying has been fairly consistent within your top 5 issues. Certainly for the institutions I work with, it is creeping up into the top 1-2 spot, which it hasn't been there for some considerable time. So we're definitely seeing this happen on the ground. But we now have, if you need it, there is now the data behind it, as well as your own data that shows this is happening nationally. So we'll see what happens as a consequence of this. Hopefully something, and hopefully the NSPCC campaign will assist to get Ofcom to use the powers that it's been given within the Online Safety Act to tackle this and other online issues. In terms of guidance then, where are we at and what is happening? Well, Working Together to Safeguard Children was massively updated in December. There was a minor update in February 24, so you might want to have a look, see what's been updated, and check that there's some definition issues that there was a problem with, so they've updated to make sure the definitions are right. So you just want to check that your definitions, if you've taken them from Working Together, are up to date. And particularly if you updated your policies this time last year or prior to Working Together to coming in, you'll need to make sure that if you've lifted definitions, that you've got the right definitions in your policies and procedures, because a number of them were updated by Working Together to Safeguard Children. And also make sure that your policies and procedures do reflect the changes that have been brought in by Working Together. Just a quick word about keeping children safe in education. The DFE is looking to consult on some significant changes to this document. It's unlikely, therefore, that there are going to be any major changes, if any at all, this year, because they are looking to make some significant changes about this document in 2025. So again, once it's released, I will share it with you. If you're on my mailing list, then it will be sent to you. If you're not, keep an eye on the DFE, Department for Education, and see when that consultation opens. It will probably, I suspect, be May, June of this year. That's usually when they start to release the updated guidance. So just be aware around when that consultation is. If it's sooner, then I will let you know what that is and when it's been released. There's a guide being published about explaining prevent duty to staff and students in higher education. As you may know, this is the only safeguarding duty that higher education has. And the guide's been updated to help staff and students understand what that duty is. And the government have released an advice document for schools around the sharing of nudes and semi-nudes. So things like how to deal with it, what you're looking for in terms of what do you do with the evidence, what do you do in terms of reporting it, how do you manage it, that kind of thing sits in there as well. What we haven't yet got in terms of guidance, because the consultation finished mid-March, is the DfE guidance, final guidance around gender identity in schools. So that's going to be up to age 18. So again, once it's been published, I will let you know. I suspect the DfE is slightly concerned that it's opened a massive can of worms in relation to this. Guidance is needed for everybody, but I don't think they realise quite how substantial this is going to be. And also, if you're working with 16 plus, there's a whole range of legislation that needs to be factored in that doesn't exist under 16. So at the moment, the guidance that was there was taking you right the way through to 18. Hopefully, the government will take heed of those particular challenges when you're dealing with 16 plus. And we'll see. We will see what that document ultimately looks like. But as yet, we don't have the final definitive version. That may be released before the summer holidays, before the end of the academic year. I have a suspicion if we do get it before the end of the academic year, it will be right at the end of the academic year that we get it, given it normally takes them 10 to 12 weeks to turn around from the end of the consultation in a good year. So that would take us to the end of June in any event. So I think it will be a document that will, if it appears, appear at the end of the academic year over the school holidays, probably. So just keep an eye out for that. And then what's been happening in terms of legal updates? Well, not huge amounts, but we've had one very significant conviction. So you may have seen in the early part of this year that the first cyber flashing case went to court. He pleaded guilty at the first instance. A conviction was secured and there was a custodial sentence applied. Somewhere in the region of 66 weeks were applied for sending an image to a 15-year-old and to a woman. There is a requirement to sign the sex offenders register to 2033, and there is a restraining order in place as well. So that is really good news that within a very short space of time of it being brought in, we've had a successful conviction. For those of you working with victims of domestic abuse, then there have been some changes to legal aid funding, which hopefully will make it easier for those victims to receive financial support. Bear in mind that if they're under 18, then this is unlikely to be available. There'll be a lot of hoops to jump through. But for over 18, that's absolutely fine. So hopefully, if you're working with victims of domestic abuse, then these changes will allow them to access that funding more easily. And the final thing to mention, for many of you, you will know that the conviction rates for rape have fallen through the floor. And I was talking on some training a number of weeks ago that a study had been released that showed where victims of rape gave evidence by video link or pre-recorded evidence, then those conviction rates were lower as well. So there's been an academic study. The CPS, Crown Prosecution Service, brought in the University of Warwick to do some research into this. The report is published. It's available for you to read online for free. Unsurprisingly, there's more work to be done. There's much more work to be done around how cases are presented to court, how they are prepared, what is looked for within those cases. Hopefully we will see a turnaround happen but we are in the very, very early stages of this, so that the CPS will need to go away and look at this. The court service will need to look at it as well, and hopefully we will see some changes and maybe some increases in those convictions as well where appropriate. Fairly short today. Those are the kind of headline news in terms of updates for you. If you are looking to your CPD, then there is a training webinar on working together updates you can access readily via the website. My next course, Safeguarding in Higher Education, is on the 18th of April. There are spaces available. If you are dealing with cases that go into the kind of annals of the local authority and you're not sure what happens thereafter, then I have a 6-week programme dealing with all of what happens post a referral being made. If you're somebody who is making decisions, maybe sitting as chair within disciplinaries, within fitness to study cases, things like that, then I have a defensible decision-making course on the 25th of April designed to hone those skills and make sure that when decisions are made, you are making them as solidly as possible. So that's a very rooted in legal practice course. Strategic safeguarding, and I've got supervision skills for those of you doing in-house supervision. And if you're looking for a refresher, maybe your refresher is due for your level 3/4, then the 20th of June is the next course for that. Members of our Safeguarding Leaders Hub get access to the DSL refresher as part of their membership. If you're looking for supervision, for the rest of this year, or looking for additional support to take you through the rest of this academic year and into next, then let's have a conversation about how the Safeguarding Leaders Hub can help you. Otherwise, have a lovely afternoon. Thank you very much for being here. If you've any questions, now is the time to ask them. I'll pop that back. Feel free to pop them in the Q&A. Otherwise, I will see you in 6 weeks' time. Thank you all very much for being here.